What's going on, Jeromes? The story of the week is Minnesota Vikings inking up superstar receiver Justin frickin' Jefferson a long time. 4-year, 140, nailed it. Think about the other Kirk Cousins contract. 4 years, $140, $110 million guaranteed. The highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history by average as well as total guarantee. Deservedly so. So, JJ gets him some security. He's here a long time with the Vikings, and now we can just focus on other things like winning a dozen Lombardies in the next 10 years. And we got some Q's, we got some A's. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions on the community tab. We'll intermittently call out for questions. Go hit that up. So, first up, Ben Cummer. What is the Vikings' projected cap space in 2025 now that there is fresh ink on JJ's contract extension? So what's interesting about Jefferson's contract is that it shrunk his fifth-year option compensation this year down to the league minimum, put in a pretty sizable signing bonus, proration, lowered his cap hit this year. So the Vikings are projected to have $63.757 million in cap space for 2025. Now that's down from 100, but now the Vikings are at about $27 million in cap space for 2024. And remember, any unused cap space doesn't get rolled over. The rollover isn't included in the 63 number, as Jefferson is looking at a $15.3 million cap hit in 2025. So it's very reasonable. We'll get into the reasons why the Vikings didn't front load this thing, even though they definitely have the money to be able to do that in the next couple of years. Number two, Ian F. Outside of Darrisaw, who's next for a contract extension? So Darrisaw is eligible for an extension. He has 1 year left on his rookie deal, and then the fifth-year option, which they picked up, so technically 2 years. Well, 2024, 2025. There you go. But guys whose contract expires after the 2024 season, Harrison Phillips. I wouldn't mind Phillips back at a decent price. Same thing with Byron Murphy. Darnold's going to be interesting because is there a world where Darnold plays well enough where you sign him to a second contract or an additional contract, even though you got McCarthy waiting in the wings? Who knows? Aaron Jones, the ageless wonder. Like, Aaron Jones is older than Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin is apparently washed, but Aaron Jones, everyone is fired up about. Shaq Griffin, if he's able to revive his career, wouldn't mind him back. But the number one guy is Cam Bynum. And I think that Cam Beasley has turned into a low-key star So when I say low-key star, I mean like star like sort of under the radar, not low-key star like from Thor, Tom Hiddleston, doesn't matter. But Cam Beasley led the team in tackles last year. Big-time energy, big-time playmaker. Great off the field, supporting his Philippines as well. So, yeah, I think that Beasley would be the guy who would be inked up next outside of Christian Darrisaw. Or hell, they might even get a Beasley extension done this offseason, which I'd love to see that. Also, so Metellus did sign a mini extension, 2 years, $8 million, but he's obviously outplayed that. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Vikings freshen up his deal as well. Next, Flavio Salastori. What does the extension mean for the rookie quarterback and for Sam Darnold? What will having JJ in camp tomorrow do for the quarterbacks, especially for Sam Darnold? It's going to make life a lot easier, man, because Addison is an absolute stud, don't get me wrong, but having the best receiver in the game and potentially a generational talent and potentially a first-ballot Hall of Famer, it makes things a lot easier. And yeah, JJ was going to be here for mandatory minicamp either way, but now, I mean, you're going to have him throughout. I mean, JJ is probably going to be here for voluntary OTAs next week as well if O'Connell doesn't dismiss the veterans. And through training camp, preseason, although JJ is probably not going to play in preseason, but just being able to build chemistry and be able to build rapport, it's great. It's really good. Now, like I said, I don't think that JJ would have held out a mandatory minicamp like CeeDee Lamb is doing right now to the Cowboys, but I guess you wouldn't rule it out, so I'm glad that we don't have to discuss it. But getting on the same page, and Jefferson is not going to be working with the third-team offense, right? So the JJ to JJ connection might have to wait a little bit. But Darnold, I mean, Jefferson is Darnold's best asset and his best chance to get something going here in the great state of Minnesota. And I do think that a legit chemistry can be built between Darnold and Jefferson moving forward. And I think that's going to give the Vikings passing game a huge chance to be great in 2024. Next, Brighton Jorgensen. Why do you think they backload the contract rather than front load? So excited to have JJ here. So that's something we talked about too, because the Vikings did have that cap space in 2025. Kwesi and Brzezinski did a great job clearing up some of the inflated Spielman era contracts. But JJ, 8.5 this year, 15.3 next year, and then you get into 39 and 43, and then eventually 47. So they did backload this thing. Now, there's a couple things here. They backloaded because a few years into this deal, they can work out another deal with Jefferson and flatten out some of those cap hits, and tear up the back end of this contract, and then give him a new deal, which potentially could lower cap hits. And it's a game that's played every single year with veterans, right? Or you can have restructures, you can do this, that, and the other thing. Also, I mean, the cap is still probably going to be going up and up and up as that new TV and streaming money come pouring into the league. So, I mean, the cap, a dollar tomorrow is worth less than a dollar today. That's profound. But yeah, the cap keeps going up and up and up. So you can afford to take your lumps in the future, as that money doesn't mean as much as it does now. Also, it's a pretty clear sign that the Vikings are definitely going to be going big game hunting in free agency next year. So you have Jefferson on a low cap hit. You have Darrisaw on his 5th-year option. If you extend him, you can lower his number just like you did with Jefferson this year, just like you did with Hockenson last year. Also, Brian O'Neill probably isn't going to be on $26 million in terms of a cap hit. Maybe they rework Grenard as well. So either way, they're going to have a ton of cap space. And Creed Humphrey one time, and of course, part of that is going to be earmarked for Darrisaw long term. But like I said, I mean, they could lower his 2025 5th-year option number pretty easily. But I mean, I think it's a sign that the Vikings, they ain't going to be done. And with fewer draft picks, I think it does make sense to be a little bit more active in free agency, supplement the rooster that way. And I think that, again, it's something to be really excited about for 2025, 2026. The Vikings are going to be big-time players in free agency. So maybe we can land, the Christian Wilkins of future years. Maybe we can land the Jumpin' Joe Thuneys of future years as well. So, yeah, big-time free agents come here, because not only have the Vikings built this young, great winning culture that a lot of people want to be a part of, I mean, don't sleep on the facilities. Don't sleep on the cost of living here in Minnesota. Don't sleep on blah, 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 right? So there's lots of reasons why players are going to want to come here, which is great. Now, what makes things interesting is that now Jefferson's contract syncs up exactly with J.J. McCarthy as well as Dallas Turner with their 4-year rookie deals and 5th-year options. So all 3 of them expire after the 2028 season. And then, I mean, ideally, both of them are going to be getting second contracts here with the Vikings, and ideally, because they played so damn well, they're going to be sizable. So, it could be a logjam coming up in 2028, 2029, but, that's a problem that we'll address when we get there. Lastly, allegedly cool. What do you think will happen after the contract ends? What will it take to keep him after that? So, like we said, JJ's contract expires after the 2028 season, his age 29 season, so he'll be a true free agent in 2029, even though there is one void year just for cap purposes. But at age 30, he'll be able to hit the market. Now, a lot of the Tier 1 receiver contracts were signed when the receiver was 29, 30 years old. So, I mean, it's not you look at Tyreek, you look at Devontae Adams, you look at Cooper Kupp. They're 28, 29, 30 when they signed their extension. So, I mean, JJ's agent set this up nicely where Jefferson, if and when he continues his high level of play and continues being dominant, the wide receiver 1 in the league, he's going to be set up very nicely to get a substantial payday by the time this thing expires. Now, probably from the Vikings, hopefully, one time. But, yeah, I mean, who knows what the numbers are going to be in terms of average per season by the time 2029 rolls around. Like, will it be $60 million a year? It's possible. Like, we're not too far removed from a quarterback making $100 million per year. Like, I actually think within the next 10 to 12 years, there will be a quarterback that makes $100 million per year. Like, that will be the huge benchmark number. And you could say that that's insane, but what do you want? I mean, that's the money that the league is generating. And you could say, well, I'm not going to pay these prices. Well, you will, because that's just the economics of it. They're charging what the maximum number of people will pay that will maximize their profits. It's simple economics, right? And with all the revenue that comes in, like, what do you want to happen with it? Do you want the owners to keep it? No. No, then it trickles down to the players, and that's why player salaries keep going up and up and up, and that's where we're at, man. So again, you could be jealous. It could be like no ball player's worth that money. Again, the business is the business, and it is what it is, and that's exactly what Jefferson is worth being paid. Because if the market dictates that Jefferson is worth $35 million a year with $110 million guaranteed, why on earth would he take less? Whereas if Kirk Cousins, but that's it. That's a little bit of Q&A. Justin Jefferson contract extension edition. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skull production value.